King Richard, called the Lionheart, was born into fire and ambition. From the moment he opened his eyes in 1157, the world seemed too small for him. He was the third son of Henry II of England and Eleanor of Aquitaine, yet he carried the heart of a king in every beat. The court of Aquitaine, alive with music and poetry, could not contain his restless spirit. Even as a child, he raced horses, hunted through forests, and trained with swords that seemed too large for his hands. His courage was not taught, it was inherited, a gift and a curse. Every act, every glance seemed charged with the power of destiny. Other children played with toys, but Richard practiced with weapons, imagining himself at the head of armies, leading men to glory. His laughter rang across the halls, fearless, untamed, a prelude to the storms he would command. Richard's youth was shaped by the constant shadow of power and betrayal. His father, Henry II, was a man who ruled with iron and reason, yet his own family plotted in silence. Richard learned early that loyalty was a fragile blade, one that could cut from either side. His mother, Eleanor, the greatest queen of her age, saw in him the potential to rule not just England but hearts across Europe. She fed his ambition with tales of knights and distant lands, igniting a fire that would consume both friend and foe alike. He absorbed lessons of leadership and war as if they were the air he breathed, and he relished the challenge of outthinking both peers and rivals. At court, whispers followed him, some admiring, others fearful, for even as a teenager, his presence carried weight. Every encounter was a test, and every victory, no matter how small, became part of the legend that was Richard the Lionheart. When Richard came of age, the world was already restless. France and England, two powers intertwined by blood and ambition, simmered in tension. Richard's brothers vied for power, alliances shifted like sand, and the court was a stage for endless plots. Yet he was fearless, rising above intrigue, not with cunning, but with the raw force of his will. Every battle he entered became legend. His sword was called justice, his shield honor, and his heart burned with a zeal that few could match. When he fought, armies trembled, and when he rode, kings whispered his name with awe. His reputation was built not on titles or lands, but on the tangible weight of his courage. Nobles sought his favor, enemies dreaded his approach, and commoners looked to him as a figure larger than life itself. Richard moved through the world as a living force, shaping events by sheer presence, commanding attention even in silence. The Crusades called to him like destiny itself. In 1189, Richard ascended the English throne, crowned not just king but warrior. He left the comforts of England, the castles and riches, for the deserts and dangers of the Holy Land. The journey was brutal. Seas raged, deserts scorched, and enemies lurked in every shadow. But Richard did not flinch. His armies followed him because they knew he would face any danger first. He crossed lands ruled by sultans and warlords, cities that rose like stone giants, and rivers that seemed impossible to ford. Every challenge tested him, yet he thrived, turning peril into glory with a laugh that echoed through history. Each day of travel was a test of endurance and will. Horses fell, men perished, and yet Richard pressed forward, embodying the ideal of the knight in every grueling mile. The desert winds could not extinguish his fire, and the enemy could not break his resolve. At Acre, he proved his might. The city, a jewel on the coast, had resisted countless sieges. Richard's army pressed relentlessly, and his strategy was precise, his courage undeniable. When the walls fell, it was not just a victory of men, but of legend. Richard did not revel in mere conquest. He sought to inspire. His knights spoke of his bravery as if he were a myth walking the earth. Yet even in triumph, the cost was clear. Blood stained the sand, screams haunted the knights. He bore it all with lion-like composure, his eyes always fixed on the horizon, where the next battle waited. Victory for Richard was never simple. It demanded sacrifice, cunning, and a willingness to risk all. Every fallen soldier, every stormed wall, became part of a tapestry of courage that defined his campaign. Richard's clash with Saladin, the great sultan, became the heart of his legacy. Each battle was not merely a contest of armies, but of spirits. Richard led charges that shattered lines, rode into ambushes that would kill lesser men, and yet his mind remained sharp. Saladin too admired this lion-hearted king. They exchanged gifts and messages, recognizing in one another a rare brilliance. Their rivalry became the stuff of legend, told for centuries as a story of valor and mutual respect in a world consumed by war. Even in defeat, Richard inspired loyalty, turning retreats into strategies, loss into lessons. He understood that leadership required more than courage. It demanded vision, and he wielded both with unmatched skill. Yet Richard was not just a warrior. He was a king who carried the burdens of his people, even if he showed it rarely. England suffered in his absence, taxes rose, and castles crumbled without his oversight. But Richard's vision was always larger than a single throne. He saw the tapestry of Europe, the fragile threads of alliances, and the fleeting moments of power. Every battle he fought, every decision he made, was part of a grand design to etch his name into eternity. He returned to England only briefly, yet his absence was felt in every corner of the kingdom. His legend grew not just from deeds, but from the very idea of him, unapproachable, untouchable, and endlessly daring. Diplomats feared his judgment, kings respected his strategy, and enemies dreaded the moment he appeared on the battlefield. Richard's reign was defined by movement, by constant engagement with the forces of history, and by the unyielding fire that burned within him. The final chapters of Richard's life were no less dramatic. After the Crusades, he was captured on his way home, betrayed not by enemies but by men who feared his power. Ransoms were demanded, castles threatened, and the world seemed to conspire against him. Yet even in chains, his spirit roared. He negotiated, commanded, and endured. He returned to his kingdom with the same unyielding presence, riding with the authority of a man who had faced death and survived. Every step he took reminded the world that Richard was more than flesh. He was an idea, a storm, a lion who refused to bow. His imprisonment became yet another tale of resilience, proving that even when stripped of freedom, Richard's spirit could not be contained. Historians marveled at his loyalty and courage, even in captivity. His death in 1199 matched his life. Wounded by a crossbow in a siege, he faced mortality with the same courage he had faced armies. His body may have fallen, but his legend did not. Across Europe, tales spread of his heroism, his battles, and the uncompromising heart that had led men into history. Monuments rose, songs were sung, and his name became a standard of courage and strength. Richard the Lionheart, king of men, warrior of destiny, had passed, but the roar of his life echoed forever. His death marked the end of an era, yet it immortalized him, casting a shadow that would stretch across centuries. In the end, Richard's story is not just of conquest, but of what it means to be fearless in a world that rewards caution. His heart, lion-like, refused to shrink in the face of fate. History remembers him not just as a king, but as a force, a figure who embodied the glory and terror of his age. He did not merely rule, he commanded legend itself, turning every act of life into an example of daring and vision. Richard's life reminds us that true leadership is forged in extremes. Comfort, safety, and compromise were never his path. He knew the cost of ambition, the price of glory, yet he embraced it fully. From forests of Aquitaine to the deserts of the Holy Land, from siege towers to royal courts, he moved like a storm through the world, refused to live quietly, refused to fade, and refused to be ordinary. Even centuries later, children read of his courage, scholars study his strategy, and kings dream of his boldness. He became the standard of chivalry and daring, the archetype of the warrior king. And conquer he did, leaving a legacy that roars louder than any crown, louder than any kingdom, louder than time itself. More remarkable leaders still wait in the shadows. Subscribe and explore their worlds. History is an epic of power, ambition, and unforgettable stories.